Just as predicted, Disney stock went up slightly on Thursday after their earnings call based on streaming numbers increasing, but theme parks losing. Folks, we're here to tell you on Friday, the Disney stock shot up even more. Well, is it evidence that we have no idea what we're talking about here on the channel? Maybe. Or maybe it might have something to do with articles saying Disney is done with politics, and it turns out investors like that a lot. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the channel that is changing hearts and minds simply by telling the truth. Today, we're telling you what's going on with the Disney stock, which is up, but we're not here to give you any kind of financial advice. Today, we're going to break down what happened in the Disney earnings call that caused the stock to rise about 6% on the Thursday following the report. Now, that was a decrease from where it started off as investors started looking at what was going on with the House of Mouse and digging in under, below, and fundamentally to the issues Bob Iger probably didn't want to talk about. But still, overall positive, and that's no surprise. What was surprising to many was that Disney started skyrocketing again on Friday. So what's going on? Well, folks, take a look at this article out of Business Insider. Disney is avoiding more political dust-ups, but Netflix is bringing the fight. It goes on to talk about how Netflix is taking the fight to Disney with the live stuff, and you know about the Jake Paul and Mike Tyson fight, and you know the ratings were huge, and you know everybody tuned into that. We'll be talking about that tomorrow, by the way, the ratings and what it means for Americans, because there's a broader statement that's making. But I'm here to tell you, the reports coming out on Friday, such as Business Insider, saying that Disney has no more interest in politics. When you saw Rachel Zegler late Thursday night issue an apology, a full-blown apology, and it's debatable whether she wrote it herself, but somebody at Disney said, get a hold of her. When you saw the reports here on this channel and in other places that Disney is trying to find conservatives now to put in their newsrooms and on their TVs, not only do I think that means that Bob Iger has lost control and Wall Street is stepping in to say we're going to moderate the company, but I think that really energized investors. They want this company to be moderated. They want this company to reach out to families. They want this company to be able to ride whatever the stock market wave is that is coming, and it could be a Trump tsunami. I'm not here to take a political side. I'm simply here to tell you that Trump is very, very pro-business, and we saw what happened from 2016 until 2019. If that's replicated, duplicated, Wall Street and investors want Disney to be a part of that, not hostile to it, not adversarial to it. So if you're asking pro what caused the stock to rise, even as other stocks were falling on Friday, it's that. They're ready for the food fight to end at the House of Mouse. And any sign that that's about to happen opens the floodgates for people to come pouring in. What will happen with the stock? Can't say, because it could get us in trouble to start talking about prognostications of money and finances and all that. Go talk to your financial advisor. But we'll break down what did happen, and we'll do so right now. This is called Bob Iger Avoids Snow White, Epic Universe, and Questions on Ideology and Disney Earnings Call for Q4 2024. It is by the one and only, the Marvin Montanero. Here's what we've got. First of all, we've got the embedded Valiant stuff. Go check it out if you did not get a chance to see Valiant. Disney admitted in its Q4 earnings report prior to the start of the call that 2 years ago it was forced to inject creativity back into the company. The report touted the success of Deadpool and Wolverine along with Inside Out 2. They did not talk about Snow White whatsoever. Hulu and Disney Cruise Line are doing quite well, picking up some of the slack from the struggling parks division. However, danger is on the horizon for Disney with Epic Universe. We'll talk about that in just a few. Bob Iger and Disney CFO Hugh Johnston, they took care of this call today, and there were many mishaps that happened, including hot mic situations where Bob gave away that perhaps they don't always give the numbers to investors unless they want to. On the creative front, our renewed strength is a result of the expansive work we began 2 years ago to restore creativity to the center of the company, Iger said. And well, there's Ziegler. She's in the article, but she wasn't in the discussion whatsoever. Iger omitted Snow White from the earnings call in Q3 as well. However, the big news that seems to have some of the investors excited is that Disney managed to outperform expectations for streaming. We'll talk about how they did that in just a moment, but they also gave some future guidance that investors like, and that is that they're going to be plopping ESPN right on down into the Disney Plus app. And they also said that they're going to make sports betting and gambling part of ESPN. So then that begs the question, are they going to be integrating sports betting and gambling into Disney Plus? Will it be the gateway app for your latest addiction issues? We're not sure. Jonas, we've got this full article. We encourage people to go read it, check it out. The ramifications of all of this, currently at the time of recording, Disney is up 6.64% from where they were the day before. Now, that's significantly down from where they were when they first opened, and it was all rainbows, sunshine, and Skittles for the House of Mouse. But before you get too excited, remember that Disney is still very far down from where they once were. How far down? Well, the peak of the Bob Chapek era, which is supposed to have been the middle of absolute terror for the company, according to current leadership, they closed at 197 at the peak under Bob Chapek. Today, they're struggling to hang around the 110 mark. So you can see that's a significant drop-off from where they once were, from their highs. Note that Bob Chapek was CEO during this entire time when it is way up there. Jonas, help us out. Share with us, please. What other things did you find to be noteworthy in the earnings call that perhaps we should not miss, and perhaps investors would be interested in knowing about?
The primary takeaway that I haven't really been able to talk about is that Bob Iger seems to be taking more of a backseat on these earnings calls than he has in the past. That's something that, based off of the reporting from CNBC and some other outlets, that Bob Iger never really liked doing the earnings calls, didn't like having to answer to shareholders. That's a fact. That's a matter of record at this point. That's not me trying to impugn his judgment, but who would want to answer to people who might actually ask you to answer for what you've done? What little time he was on there, if he wasn't deferring to Hugh Johnston, who's doing a great job here of answering questions. He was talking about the brands at Disney. He got the fluff questions. He was the Chris Traeger, although not as convincing of a Chris Traeger. They're talking about the movies that are coming up. Did not mention Snow White in all of that list of movies that are coming up. He talked about sequels and brand extensions and how great they do. So that when we release one of these movies out there that's like a Little Mermaid live action remake, it boosts up Little Mermaid on the platform, which we haven't seen that really happen as far as the Nielsen data goes. But okay, that's fine.
Which, by the way, that gives us insight into the sequelitis and why they're going so hard in the paint when it comes to the sequel assembly line. And Alan, I know you and Chris Gore over at Film Threat have been covering what's going on in the D-Files with the animation side of things. Have you heard anything about Disney's just now ravenous desire to turn basically all of their films into sequel 1, sequel 2, sequel 3? Has that been mentioned to you all by the insiders?
Not in any meaningful way that you haven't heard. I think, I mean, the biggest thing is, what is the aftermath of Jennifer Lee stepping down? And, I think there's hope, but it doesn't sound like they're moving in the direction that we want to go, at least not at a speed that we want. So that's kind of what I've been hearing. And yeah. So
I think the key word here is iteration. They want to do Cars. And by the way, we've had this leaked. So we know this now, at least we think we know it. Cars 4 is in development. They've got Black Panther 3, which will be the second film in a trilogy of Black Panther films that only has Black Panther in one of them. So go figure that. It's like having 7 James Bond movies, but only one with James Bond in it. It's very strange. And so it's been sequel after sequel after sequel, and it looks like they're going to pursue that even harder.
Well, it's interesting. I don't know if you've read the last D-Files, but we talked about the untitled Disney project. Mm-hmm. And the project that was basically replaced by Moana 2. And that was definitely an original project. but for various reasons, and we were speculating on that, but it seemed like that project was basically a no-go, even though it went very far down the road, and it was canceled and then replaced with Moana 2. So yeah, I think we're gonna, I think Disney, like every other Hollywood studio, is going for safe bets, and that's sequels.
By the way,
what's interesting about that safe bet is that it was a princess film, which is usually a very safe bet for Disney. But there was an element that might have made somebody like Bob Iger question whether or not that was the direction that Disney wanted to go.
I want to get Alan's take on this real quick, because Alan, you bring up Moana 2, and they did not bring up Moana 2 except in passing. That was very strange to me, because Moana is arguably their biggest princess brand, at least. It might be their biggest brand, period. We know that because it was the most streamed movie of 2023, and that's more than half a decade after the original came out. Now, you could argue that Frozen is bigger because of merchandise. I don't subscribe to that thought. But Alan, are you hearing anything about Moana 2 that should suggest that we should understand why they're not emphasizing it as heavily as one would have anticipated?
Yeah, I mean, I find it interesting. I mean, Moana 2 is rushed. It's very rushed. I think this is the fastest turnaround on a Disney animated feature ever. And
when you say rushed, you mean logistically. You don't mean qualitatively. You're not saying.
No, I'm saying everything.
Okay.
In every way, it's rushed. And I mean, because we talked about it back 2 quarters ago when the announcement of Moana 2 first happened, because they did shut down the prior project, and then they replaced it with this. That was a television show in development in Canada, and now they pivoted and said, okay, let's make it a movie. And this is not. They've done it before. I have a friend who wrote the Atlantis movie, the sequel that went, and that was a television series.
Alan, I just want to pause for a minute.
Yes,
I want to make sure everybody knows what's happening here. You, sir, have now compared Moana 2. I'm not saying that you're making a direct comparison, but you've put it in the same language as Atlantis.
Yes.
Are you doing that purposefully? I just want to make sure.
Well, it's an example of the idea of, to make a great movie. To make a movie, you have time, quality, and money. And if you can get all three right, you're gonna have a great movie. But those three elements are generally at conflict with one another. Mm-hmm. And what Moana 2 doesn't have is time. And so they're definitely rushing it, and they're definitely repurposing this. And I'll say this, I don't know a lot about it. I will be seeing it a couple of days before the official release, but I was at the Asian American Pacific Islander celebration of film and television put on by the Critics' Choice Association, which I'm a member of. And they gave an award to the Moana team. And the
old one or the new one?
The new one, Moana 2.
Did they get a Nobel Prize, perhaps? Is that what they got?
So, we got they got a distinction award because obviously Pacific Islander, but during the speech by the director, she said that Moana 2 is a story of identity, culture, and her people. And my thought was, yeah, of course it is.
You said,
okay, so I have to ask. You said the director, and then you said she. So yes. Are you saying this was Lena Seydoux Miller?
No. Other one. I'm sorry. It was the producer.
Okay.
It was the Asian one.
Quick point of clarification, by the way.
Because there are three directors on Moana 2.
Yes, there are three directors. And the male, I will say, he is Pacific Islander, so he does have cultural ties to the movie.
So what we're playing in the background right now is from, I believe, the Hollywood Reporter. This is what they invited the early reviewers to go to so that they could get an early screening to review this film. Some of them, by the way, not all of them, but they brought them to have dinner and a movie and listen to music, live music and all that.
Yes, I was not invited to this. So,
Well, Alan, I was going to say, I don't think you missed out on much because there's been a lot of grumbling. And you don't usually hear grumbling about these things, but apparently people didn't have as good a time as they wanted at this. It was kind of hokey and sort of cheaply decorated, and so people are just they're grumbling and rumbling and all of that. But
can I ask, Alan?
Yeah.
How does this compare to the spread that you all got on Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny?
Yeah. Let's see. I mean, I'm seeing it the Monday that it's being released. So Thanksgiving Day Monday, or Thanksgiving week on Monday. So they're not giving us a lot of time to do it. Not like they did with Wish, where we got 2 weeks of juice out of that one before the movie finally came out. Again, the impression is time. They don't have enough time. And I'll point out this. They hired songwriters who have some off-Broadway success, which is a better sign than what they did with Wish. But I don't believe they had enough time. And I will also say this about time. Lin-Manuel Miranda, when he is rushed, he is not that good as a songwriter. Mm-hmm. When he is given time, he is excellent as a songwriter.
Probably the best of our generation. Yeah.
And I feel like, and if you watch Enchanted 2, Alan Menken and I think it was Stephen Schwartz, they came back to write it, but I felt like they didn't have enough time, and
it was horrible.
That was probably the worst I've ever seen in terms of
Alan
Menken's work.
Yeah, whole Enchanted 2 in every way was terrible. I don't know who thought.
And I don't think they had time. I don't think they had time to work on songs.
Yeah. Let's go to the parks for a minute, because the parks are 1/3 of this company in terms of profit, and they didn't have a lot to talk about when it came to the parks. Vash, Culture, I'll toss it to you guys, Marvin as well, if you'd like to hop in on this. But Disney apparently, well, they're not very afraid of Universal Studios, Epic Universe, or anything like that. And they blamed the Olympics for their poor performance in the last quarter. I have no idea how the Olympics managed to sink their parks and experiences division for an entire quarter, but it really, really took it out of them. Guys, your thoughts on the what you heard in the earnings call?
Yeah,
well, go ahead, Vash.
Well, I'm not very impressive, I will say. Marvin, you sound like you were going to say something more substantial than I was.
No, I was going to say that logic would dictate when the Olympics comes into a city where you have a theme park that's a lot of tourists coming into a touristy area, you would see some kind of influx of people coming into the parks on days where maybe they're not going to go see an athletic contest, or maybe even before or after the Olympics to make a trip of it. But they are kind of treating Epic Universe like it's I guess like another SeaWorld or another Busch Gardens, because they're trying to say that, like, oh, well, because of Epic Universe, more people are going to come into Orlando and they're going to come to Disney, which I'm like, isn't that the same Olympics argument that you just said hurt your company? But I don't think they've ever faced a challenge quite on the level of Epic Universe before. This is going to, I mean, when you saw that Donkey Kong stuff that they just unveiled the other day on the Nintendo Direct, this is going to be a park that people are going to want to spend a lot of time at. And Disney, I think, is going to see a huge hit. People are going to be cutting their Disney vacations in half to get over to Universal and spend 3, 5, even 7 days there.
And most significantly about that, this is not Disneyland Paris, which really doesn't generate all that much in terms of revenue for the Walt Disney Company. It really never has. Now they're investing in that resort heavily in order to increase its revenue output, but it just really hasn't showed up on quarterly earnings before. Somehow, though, the Paris Olympics tanked that whole prospect there. This is not that. This is a portion of the company, Walt Disney World specifically, that it alone contributes 1/3 of the overall operating income or profit for the entire company. And now you have the newest theme park in 20 years by the big two, a huge, ambitious project that is being developed by your lead competitor. This is going to be the first in the social media era, and it will have consequences. I mean, we've already got reports from investment groups suggesting that 1 million guests that would have otherwise gone to Disney are going to go over to Epic Universe instead in order to take advantage of all the new things. The hotels and so forth will be very much occupied in order for people to visit Epic Universe. There will be cannibalization. Now, I'm not saying that there won't be some spillover, but the cannibalization, not just in terms of attendance, because I think attendance is one thing. They were a little bit cagey about that as well. Hugh Johnson, he didn't want to get into the attendance versus revenue from that side of the business. But the the per cap spending, the per guest spending, I think is going to be where Disney's going to be most efficient, because all that first bite of the apple is going to Epic Universe.
Yeah, 30. They're going to lose. I've gone slowly over the course of the last year, estimating the bite of the apple it will be. The loss of market share. I think it's a 30% pull. I think that may even be like lower. Look, they have the newest thing to offer. They are going to get all the influencer attention, which we all know here drive attendance to the parks, right? So you get thousands of YouTubers, TikTokers, Facebooky people, whatever.
Instagrammers are big for Disney. Big.
Yeah, exactly. And they, you know what? They're going to immediately change allegiance. Do you know why? New is always better, at least in the influencer world.
Yes.
Right? And better is better too. More people are going to want to tune into content looking at that Cranky Kong animatronic that we saw that are going to want to see Tiana's Bayou Adventure.
Well, I'm going to tell you right now, the Dark Universe portal area itself is going to blow people's minds because of the animatronics that are in there.
But here's the thing. At the same time that Epic Universe is going to be, opening and getting off the ground and allowing visitors to come in, Josh D'Amaro just revealed at D23 Brazil that this Cars, rally race ride or whatever will begin construction next year. That means that at the same time that Epic is opening, Magic Kingdom is going to be walled off and Rivers of America is going to be ripped out. Where would you want to actually go for your $200 a day?
Well, guys, we're going to be.
That's why they cannot build it where Rivers of America is, because
right.
you cannot lose capacity, the physical volume of the park. They built this whole new Fantasyland baloney sausage garbage waste of time, no net win on the end of the attraction scale at all. In fact, a net loss.
Culture, we said no profanity on the show. Come on, clean it up, man. Clean it up. I need Tom to hold on to his chair. Tom, do you have hold of your chair? I don't want you to fall out, okay? I want you to be careful. We don't want you taking a hard hit on the ground. Jonas, could you tell Tom? And Jonas is panicked now. He's like, "Oh no, what is it? I'm going to be called."
I have no idea. So please let me know.
Jonas, when it comes to Hulu and Fox and Disney's justification for the $70 billion they spent, we finally now know what it was they were buying that for. Jonas, please tell Tom. He's been waiting for years to know why they did this. What did they say today in the earnings call, Jonas?
Today, Bob Iger said that it was so important that they buy Fox so that they had Avatar and Alien Romulus and all of those franchises that are doing gangbusters right now. Oh, wait, they're not doing gangbusters. They're doing fine. And also for the 60 Emmy Awards that they got from it. So they basically admitted that they bought Fox because that's the only success that they're having right now. They didn't say only success, but that's the only place they're having real success right now, because it ain't from Star Wars or Marvel.
So they knew back when they bought this that things were going to be so bad that they needed Fox.
That's the best I can assume. It cleared up the rights to the original.
That's not how the Force
Star
works.
Thank you so much. Cleared up the rights to the original Star Wars, so now we can get a box set without them having to talk to 3 companies. Yeah. And it also cleared up some of the Marvel rights, which they still have yet to properly use. Fox would have done a Deadpool film with or without Disney. And also they said they needed it for Hulu. Well, it's sounding like Hulu was most of that. And this is a small one. They bought the India business and then sold it for a pittance. So they lost $13 billion on that.
Well, if anything, then they kind of get stuck with Hulu.
Yes and no.
Although it is kind of successful. I mean,
it's the only thing they're making money on right now.
Yeah, that's
streaming.
the problem. Like
the only reason they can say that Disney Plus is successful is because they say that, well, these two together, we're going to call that combined DTC. And if Disney Plus was profitable, they would say that Disney Plus is profitable, but instead they have to say combined DTC.
And by the way,
off this ride,
we broke this exclusively last year, Project Hulk. And it was the project to integrate Hulu into Disney Plus and then kill Hulu. But we're halfway there. And we found out today that they're going to integrate ESPN. And now the question is, why do they have ESPN or Hulu if they're going to be Tiles and Disney Plus? What's the point in having those things if you can just get those things on Disney Plus? I think we know where this is going. Investors are at least initially excited about this because Disney beat the earnings projections. But folks, remember to be sober-minded, because if we take a look at the 5-year one more time, no financial advice, but this is a company that is nowhere near where it once was, and we're not sure when that's going to be again. So it is an improvement. We're never going to rain on the parade of a gain of 6% at the time of recording, but we're also not going to be out there jumping up and down, spraying the pixie dust and saying, they've done it, they've won, Bob has proven himself to be true to the vision of Walt himself. No, we're not going to do that. But it's a good day for Disney. We hope they can continue to have good days. Right now, we have our hesitations about claiming that they will. You know, it's always sad when one of these videos ends, and yet it is the beginning of the wait for the next one to land. 4 times a day right here on the Pro Channel. And by the way, there's plenty more on our partner channels, That Park Place, That Pod Place, That Game Place, and go check out the original music we have on stations like Vacation Radio. We'd love to have you, love to entertain you. At least we'll do a better job than some of the current entertainment companies. Folks, like, share, subscribe, and you know what? Drop a comment right on down below. Share this out anywhere you go on social media. And until the next time, we have the honor, the pleasure of getting to spend time with you when you choose to invite us into your day to add the value that we hope to bring your way. We ask that you keep learning, keep growing, and as always, keep having fun.